So welcome to another episode of When Push Comes to Shove. Today we are talking to Michelle. She is an activist. Hello, Michelle.
Hello, Nikita.
You all right? How are you doing today?
Yeah, good, thank you. Really good.
Wonderful. So we thought we'd just do a little chat with you today about, what you do, how long you've been doing it for. So the floor is yours. Start. Tell me all about yourself.
So, firstly, I'm a mother to 4 children, 3 boys and a girl. And I suppose my first 2 births was very medicalised. I had an emergency caesarean at 32 weeks due to decelerations. And I just went along with everything. I was actually really grateful for the medical intervention at the time because I was really worried about my baby. I hadn't felt him move for over 24 hours and it was a horrible feeling. So I was quite pleased when they did the caesarean. He was resuscitated and, the outcome was good. And then with my second son, I had placenta previa grade 4, which was an absolute nightmare. I spent most of my time in hospital from 28 weeks and then 29 weeks I was in and then 32 weeks and then at 34 weeks I was admitted on full bed rest. Actually 33 weeks they admitted me on full bed rest because I kept having bleeds. And that was really terrible. I felt like I was living in a bubble. Definitely looking back on it, I was perhaps going into a bit of a mental breakdown maybe. I felt like, I was just in this bubble and life was going around me. I missed my son's first birthday in hospital and it was horrible. And then I hemorrhaged and had another emergency caesarean. Again, which was needed, life-saving, I believe, at the time, and I had blood transfusions. It was all very scary. So both of those births wasn't really part of. I just kind of let people take over my body and do what they needed to do. And then on my 3rd pregnancy, 7 years later, I was in a really good place. I was really fit, like I was kickboxing right up until 5 months pregnant. I would say I felt the best I'd ever felt. And for me, everybody around me had always had like normal births, vaginal births, physiological births. Well, vaginal births. And my sister had had a home birth. I was present at that. And I just thought, well, everything is really good. I've got no medical complications, so I'm going to have a vaginal birth. And I thought I'd always been told that I had to have a C-section because I'd had 2 previous caesareans. So I'd gone along with that. And it was only because I was actually doing the hair of a midwife, a fantastic midwife. And I said to her, yeah, I've got to have a caesarean. She was like, why have you got to have a caesarean? I said, oh, because I've had 2. And she was like, no, you don't. Of course you don't. You've got a vagina. You can have a vaginal birth if you want. I was like, can I? She was like, of course you can, Michelle. So I felt like a little girl that had just found out this big secret that actually I could have a baby. I was like, really? What, I can use my body and, push my baby out myself. So I started to really look into it, and I started looking into the RCOG guidance. I started looking at the national guidance. I started reading that actually vaginal birth after more than 2 caesareans was an option, and that any woman who's had up to 4 previous caesareans should be consulted on the option to vaginal birth. And I was like, why has nobody talked to me about this? Why hasn't anybody told me about this? Because this would certainly be the choice that I would take. Especially I feel so well and healthy, and I just thought, I cannot put my body back on that operating table to be cut open for nothing when there's another way. So it kind of really changed something in my head, and it made me lose trust actually in those that had been caring for me, because I just thought, why have they not told me this information? And even though I was under consultant-led care, I'd never met my consultant, so I'd requested to see him to discuss this you know, really important information that I could have a vaginal birth. And this was at my 36-week appointment. So this was really late. Anyway, I went into that appointment and the consultation was absolutely disgusting. It was fear-based. They told me absolutely there is no way that I could have a vaginal birth. I've had 2 previous caesareans. You know, she said to me, what's more important, being a mother to your other children or having this vaginal birth? And I was like, I couldn't believe it.
And
anyway, I left.
At that point, would just go, oh, fine. You know, they'll be scaremongered into doing it, right?
Yeah. But I was so informed. I'd come to that appointment so informed, and not because anybody responsible for my care had given me any information. I'd found it myself, and I'd also joined VBAC Support UK and the Facebook group online, and that was like my saviour. There was, you know, independent midwives on there, you know, midwives that really, I feel, have the right mindset for women. You know, they believe in women's choice. They're making women educated. They're educating women about birth. So to sit in the room with 2 people that just wanted me they just wanted me having a caesarean, and they actually said to me, I tell you what we will do is when we give you the first caesarean, we can we can sterilise you at the same time so that you're not in this situation again. And I was like, I just couldn't believe it. Anyway, I left that appointment, and it was then that something just switched in my head. I was like, wow, there is something going on here. This is an issue. So anyway, I transferred my care and went on to have a vaginal birth. I got the birth that I wanted. I stuck with the system, and at the time I was like so pleased that I'd had this vaginal birth, because that was what I wanted, you know. But when I look back at it, and I suppose my 4th experience helps me to see my 3rd birth differently, but when I look back at it, it was, I had to really stand my ground when I went into hospital for my vaginal birth, because they kept saying, you know, we'll take you in for caesarean, we'll just give you a sweep, we'll just pop your waters, you know, we'll just, and we'll give you so long, and then we'll take you in for caesarean. And I had to decline this so many times in the hospital, like, you are not taking me in for caesarean. I'm in labour, I'm going to birth my baby, I don't want any doctors in the room, I only want a midwife, and I only will have a caesarean if it is absolutely medically necessary and mine or my baby's life is at risk. And that's the kind of stance I was in labour, in the hospital, fighting off medical interventions all the time. People coming in and out my room, strangers just walking in while I'm lying there with everything exposed, no respect for my dignity. And yeah, some really terrible things happened to me. I was stitched by a student midwife, and she didn't want to do that. And she was forced to. Then they told her she got it all wrong, told her to take it out and do it all again. And it was terrible. But what that whole experience taught me is that my body works just great. And I was so pleased that I stuck with my instincts, and I knew what I was capable of, and I didn't let these people that was trying to influence my choices with their own fears and their own experiences of watching birth play out in hospital. You know, I think there's so many people that are just supporting birth in hospital that are seeing negative experiences, but they are part of that. So anyway, I then fell pregnant again, and this time I thought, I'm having a home birth. I am not going into that hospital setting, because the only way I can control who comes in my room, who cares for me, who does what, is in my own house, because I can shut that door. I can say who I want in. I can be in control in my own house. So I planned a home birth. I declined consultant-led care. Just go back a bit. So after my 3rd birth experience, that's when I became an activist, because my own experience had opened up my eyes to a world of coercion, you know, a world of misinformation, the fear that was present of birth, you know, how women were being forced into situations. And that injustice, I just could not ignore. I came away having the birth that I wanted, but I could not ignore what had happened. So with my fourth birth, I was well into birth activism now, really informed. I knew my choices. I knew that I could decline stuff. I knew that I was in control. So I declined consultant-led care, and they was like, no, but you need to see a consultant. I was like, but I'm planning a vaginal birth, a physiological birth. What does a consultant know about a physiological birth? What are they going to teach me that my midwife can't teach me, or that I don't already know? These are specialists in birth, when birth goes wrong, when birth needs medical assistance. What are they going to teach me that I don't know? I know about the risk associated with vaginal birth and C-section, and actually the risks for me having a C-section are a lot higher. And what matters to me is that I'm a mother to my children and I'm healthy into their future, you know, for years to come. And I knew that physiological birth was going to give me the outcomes and the long-term health benefits that I needed and wanted. So I'd planned a home birth again. I tried to stick with the system because I was trying to work with the system to improve it. I was like working with my local hospital, and I knew some great midwives that really wanted to support my choices. But when push came to shove, they couldn't really support my choices without feeling the need to constantly tell me about the risks and, you know, if you birth at home, this could happen. And what really concerned me is nobody wanted to address what mattered to me. Nobody wanted to say, you know, do you feel you know enough to, you know, have the optimal birth experience, physiological birth? Do you know, because I'd never had antenatal classes or anything in my previous births. You know, no one wanted to educate me on how my body worked, the important hormones. Nobody wanted to tell me anything that was beneficial. They just wanted to scare me. And again, I waited till I think 37 weeks, and I just thought, you know what, these people, they still can't support my choices. And I just thought, this is my last birth, my last shot at a vaginal birth on my terms, without being abused, without being coerced, without having fear, I wanted to just birth my baby feeling safe and without the need to fight. I didn't want to be checking people while I'm in labour. I just wanted to switch off and experience that type of birth that I know is possible, that I see women having, that I was watching on YouTube, that, you know, that I was seeing, and I knew that I could have it, but the only way I could have it was if the right people was in the room. So I left NHS care and I hired an independent midwife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
And she was just amazing, absolutely amazing. Makes me feel tearful.
Oh, darling.
Because from the first time I met her, she never once saw me for the risks, or she never judged my choices. She just spoke to me woman to woman. And she said to me, you know, I don't intend to treat you any differently than I'll treat any other woman. You know, you want a home birth, you want a physiological birth. I told her that I didn't want many interventions, like I didn't want vaginal examinations. I wanted to just be left alone to do what I wanted to do. I wanted to be really undisturbed. And
Isn't
she was like,
when they walk in and they say, what do you want?
yeah.
Mine, just in the kitchen. She's in the kitchen at the moment. She's my friend, an independent midwife. She just walked in my lounge and said, what do you want? Instead of the NHS going, you can't do this, you're going to bleed out, blah, 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 shoulder dystocia. She's my hero.
Yeah, well, this is like my midwife. For the first time, she just sat and listened. Like, she was like, what do you want? Yeah, come, of course, Michelle. Yeah, okay, yeah, that's fine. You know, and we spoke about her expertise. I asked her how many VBAC she'd supported. And actually, I thought, you are the expert in physiological birth. You are the woman that knows exactly how birth should be, exactly how birth plays out when it's undisturbed, and you will recognise if there is an issue and I need medical intervention, then you're the one that's going to recognise it. You're not going to act just in case. You're going to be acting in my best interests. So we had lots of discussions, you know, and it was nice. It was in my house. She come to my house, and it was like sitting on the sofa with my friend. And I thought, yeah, actually, I'm happy for you to be in my birth space. I want you in my birth space. So yeah, I hired an independent midwife, and that whole birth experience, you know, I didn't have any interventions. You know, you hear NHS care and they say you can't get in the pool until you're so many centimetres. And I said to my independent midwife, like, this is in the build-up. How will I know when to get in the pool? Like, what do I... And she was like, when you want to get in the pool. When you want to get in the pool. And I was like, do I have to be saying... She was like, no. She said, you know when you're going to need it. The only thing she said to me is, you know, if you use it perhaps really early, you might not feel the benefits as much later, you know, when you need it. So I just did what I wanted to do. All you know, I made sure that I had things that she liked in the house so that she could help herself to her favourite drinks or food, or pick, you know, she was like, whatever, I'll eat whatever. We don't want too many strong smells because you might not like that in labour. It was lovely. She was like part of the family, and somebody that she just cared for me in a way that is just, it makes me feel sad, really, really sad, because I know so many women are subjected to, you know, when I see so many women in birth trauma groups, and I look back at my third experience and think that was traumatic. It was abusive, you know, several different people's fingers inside my vagina when they wanted to.
Awful. That's not, it's not consent either. I mean, even if they ask you, can I examine you now? A lot of women think it's normal, so they feel they have to accept it. Whereas so many women are probably sitting there thinking, I don't want her hands inside me, but I have to say yes. That's coercion.
Well, so outside of my birth activism is my first thing, but outside of that, I work with NHS Trust to try and improve care to ensure that women have choice and personalisation. And one of the things that I was been reviewing lately is I was looking at a woman's care plan, you know, like it will say at 24 weeks she has this appointment and her care plan. And on the care plan, it says at 40 weeks, induction, you will come in for a talk about induction and a sweep will be offered. At 41 weeks, a sweep will be given and induction will be offered. And I think, I was saying to the midwife, we need to remove all that, because that, just putting that statement in, is not one, it's not part of a balanced conversation. It doesn't actually say that a sweep is the start of an induction, and, you know, and that it's an intervention.
For a primary, if you start going about the place giving sweeps, they end up having days and days and days of labour because their body's not ready and their uterus is irritated. It's terrible, absolutely awful. So Michelle, like, I'm aware of time, but let me ask you a couple of questions before we go.
Yeah.
So what would you say to the women who will say that we are irresponsible, and to say, oh, you know, why would you go against medical advice? You're putting yourself in danger, you're putting your baby in danger. What would you say to those women?
I would say, actually, when push come to shove, I knew more than what a lot of those who were responsible for my care did. They wasn't even aware of their own national guidance. They wasn't actually making me aware of my options, you know, my evidence-based options. And, you know, do your research, because I made my choices on what was best for me. And for me, a vaginal birth was the best possible outcome, because caesarean section carried more risks and risk of infection, me hemorrhaging, you know, scar adhesions later on in life. And that's really painful as well. And I actually knew more than what those did who was caring for me. And so I certainly wasn't.
But it's worrying, isn't it?
Yeah, and the thing is, nobody can tell me nothing, because my birth experience made me feel really strong. I am invincible, and that I will never ever have anyone put me in a box again or tell me what's right for me ever again. And really, that was only because of my birth experience that I really took my power back. I came into my own power. And so people can say, oh, you're silly, you went against medical advice. Well, do you know what? It was the best thing ever for my health, for my mental well-being, for my children. You know, it was absolutely fantastic. And I would say to all women, do your research, because you'll be surprised what you know.
Well done. That's great advice. Well, Michelle, I'd love you to come back again and we can talk more in detail, but I'm really glad we've done this episode. So thank you so much for joining us this week. Next week, I think we're speaking to a doctor. So please join in and see what they have to say. Michelle, thank you so much. And we shall see you again soon. Please come back on the show.
Yeah, thanks, Nikita. Lovely to chat to you.
Okay, darling.
All right.